It's finally finished, but we're still stuck in supernatural purgatory. This podcast is a rewatch of all 15 seasons and hopefully our way to finally escape this show.
Join us once a week for a fun, informal discussion on each episode and leave comments on any specific upcoming plot points you'd like us to discuss.
Awesome. So,
yes.
Happy 2021.
Right, yeah, that's right.
Oh my gosh, seems so weird.
It was like 11:30 and I was like, you know what? I'm going to bed. I was just like, whatever, I don't care. I was ready to call it end of a year,
Yeah, an early night is the best gift you can give yourself for New Year's.
I mean, literally, it was a complete cop-out. I had 30 minutes to wait, and I was just like, nah.
Now I'm out. 2020's done. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Exactly. So this week we went back and watched Bloody Mary.
Yes.
Spooky ooky.
Ooky spooky. So I looked up some facts and figures. So 8.4 out of 10, which has been the highest rated episode since the pilot that we've watched so far on IMDb. Director was Peter Ellis. I don't think we've seen anything by him yet. The writers were three writing credits on this one. So Eric Kripke, Ron Milbauer, and Terry Hughes Burton. So yeah, again, like new people this time.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty positive reviews for this one. I remember this being a good episode, so I wasn't surprised.
Yeah, it definitely had its moments for sure.
Yeah, though I don't know, the episode seemed quite short to me when I was watching it. Everything seemed to happen really quickly, I think.
I thought the exact same thing.
Oh my gosh.
That's really funny. Like, I was gonna, that's what I forgot to do. I was gonna go back and see some details, like, I'll get into it when we start talking about the episode, but there was some things I was just like, wait a minute, what? Why is this happening? And I thought there would be some reason for it, but I guess there really wasn't, so I guess we can get into it and sort of see why we thought it was, like, it wasn't a rushed episode, it was just like a quick episode.
Yeah, like it was like bang, 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 get all the points. Okay.
Yeah.
So we start in Toledo, Ohio, and it's very classic horror movie. I think there were three girls. Yeah, it was three girls playing truth or dare in the dark with a load of candles.
It had a very much The Craft vibe, but like they were like much younger, probably like 10 years old.
Definitely. My mum would not let me have had that many candles when I was that age.
Yeah, no, I don't think we even had candles in our house at that age.
I once had a Halloween party and we left a pumpkin with a candle in on top of the TV and we watched a horror movie. And then my mum came down and she's like, what are you doing? Because the candle had melted out of the pumpkin's mouth and like all down the television and none of us had noticed.
Oh no.
And I wasn't allowed any candles after that.
That's too funny. Yeah. That's hilarious. I can see your mum like getting super angry at that.
Yeah, definitely. I would be bad about it. Yeah, if it was my kid. So we're introduced to the Shoemakers. That's the name of the family that this kind of episode starts with. Although I would say not actually the main characters in this episode.
Right.
The main sort of younger girl there is called Lily. And her friends have dared her to go say Bloody Mary in the mirror and then report back, I guess. They let her go by herself.
I guess I'm not sure how like I never played Bloody Mary as a kid,
No.
just because it was like, why would you do that? And so, because there's different versions in different places. I think I said this last week. Mm-hmm. So they went with it being, you have to say it 3 times, but some places it's like 7 times.
Okay.
Sometimes it's like 6. So I mean, it makes sense that they only do it 3 times because, I mean, 3 is the magic number for pretty much everything.
Yeah.
And also, can you imagine if they had to say Bloody Mary 7 times every time? Is a bit much. So yeah, but she goes to in her bathroom. I guess it's a bathroom.
I think so. Yeah, that's what it looked like.
Bloody Mary. This is so stupid.
She's like freaking herself out, and she's like, "Oh, I'm not gonna do it." And then she does it, and her friends like bang on the door, like a little jump scare. I mean, it wasn't really that like.
No, I wasn't scared about that.
No, because it was obvious that it was gonna happen.
Yeah.
But like I kind of like the little detail of like the first time she says it. There's like or is it? No, the last time she says it, there is like a little flicker of the flame of the candle before they start whacking on the door. So I was like,
yeah, like, cool. Oh, something's gonna happen.
Yep.
Their dad like comes out like, what are you doing? Because they're making loads of noise. That's where it got weird for me, because it kind of follows him then. And there's some really cool shots where it looks around like the corners in mirrors through the camera, which I thought was pretty cool. Like it'll look at what you would initially see in the mirror and then slide over. Oh, I don't like it.
It was definitely they like to kind of I think we've mentioned this before, like not make it super obvious when the scare is going to come.
Yeah.
So like you know it's coming because it's Bloody Mary and blah blah blah. So she's going to be in a mirror, but there's so many mirrors in this house, so it's just like, oh, is it going to be this mirror or is it going to be this mirror? And it's like, oh, she's in the mirror, but is she going to attack, kind of thing. So it's kind of like it definitely adds suspense, which is kind of cool.
There's an anticipation of like when she's going to strike. Yeah. So they did the classic bathroom mirror thing that I talked about last time, but nothing happened in it. Like he opened it and closed it, and then it was fine. And then I think he kind of... The clever thing is that the girls playing downstairs were kind of the same sort of build as the like shadowy girl that you see in the mirror. And it doesn't really show her like attacking him.
No.
But you kind of like see her outline,
And he like starts bleeding from his eyes. It's kind of gruesome. That's pretty much it. Like we don't actually see there's no like blood splat. There's nothing like that.
No, so the like older sister comes home, whose name is Donna, and then she goes and finds it. They don't show you like the dad's body. It's just like a pool of blood, I think, on the floor, and then she does like a classic sort of horror movie scream. Before it goes into the title card. I put here, they did slightly zoom in on her face. Did this count as a dramatic zoom? I put probably not. It wasn't to probably the full effect.
No, because it was like pulled out on her face. It went to the blood, and then it was zoomed in on her face. It wasn't like the zoom in didn't happen on screen. No,
which means there wasn't one in this episode, I don't think.
No, I didn't notice one either.
Oh, disappointing.
They did some other camera work, I guess, with the with the angles with the mirrors and stuff. So we'll give them a pass.
I think a zoom would have looked out of place. Well, it kind of does every time they do it, but you know what I mean, like in this particular episode. So we get the title card, and then we are in a dream sequence, and we know it's a dream sequence because it's all blue and weird. And it's like you see Jessica on the ceiling again, like burning.
And she's saying, "Why, Sam?" I was like, "Ooh."
Which is kind of one of the first times that we see something directly from the last episode, right? Because they discussed Jessica in the last episode with the demon, like calling Sam out. Yeah. And then it kind of goes into this straight away, where they're already kind of making that connection. I know the whole thing's been connected with them finding John and stuff, but I feel this is the first time they're making a direct connection between the previous episode and this episode.
Yep. And so Dean's like, "Oh, what's going on? You know, are you still having nightmares?" He's kind of saying, "Yeah," but not really going into it. And so, and then they discuss the case. So this is at the beginning of where I was like, "Wait a minute." This is like, they didn't even show them how they even discovered the case. It was just like, here's a case. They've got his what was the dad's name?
The dad's name was Stephen Shoemaker, and they'd circled it in a paper, I think, which we've seen Dean doing. We saw him doing that at the beginning of another episode, so I guess he kind of makes that
Dead in the War.
Yeah, that's
That's what
correct.
it's for.
Yeah.
So I did notice though. So I guess that they have kind of, they know something's weird, obviously, and Dean turns around and puts the journal in the back seat. So I was
Okay.
wondering, does he update the journal as they go?
It would so make sense. They actually, I don't know if they ever sort of mention that they're doing it, but it would so make sense that they're constantly updating this journal. Why would you keep it as sort of like a, I don't know, holy text that you don't make any changes to? It's
Right.
like a working document, surely.
That's what I was thinking. So I was wondering if, like, was he doing sort of preemptive research, or was he writing in it? Because there's no, like, I mean, I don't know what you do in your car, but in my car, like, if I have a pen or something, I'll just like throw it
Yeah.
down.
Like,
my too. Like where all my coins are, I just put the pen there, and whatever
Yeah.
I need, like the paper that I was writing on, I'll put it on a chair. So maybe we don't see the action of him like putting a pen away, but at the same time, that's so like it's not that important. So I guess they wouldn't show that, but it's just be interesting to know if he was supposed to be writing or if he was just reading.
yeah. I mean, I guess it's maybe thinking that they're already doing some preemptive research on, eyes or blood, like relating those things to it. Because I didn't actually see what was mentioned in the article, but I guess something ooky spooky, and maybe that's what they were trying to do their initial research on. But yeah, it is weird. So, yeah, they're already there. I put the jacket is back, and it was in this whole episode. I was really happy about it. Also, the jacket with the red shirt combo is a good combination, and I like it very much. So
I think the person who has the most style change is Sam, for sure.
Yes,
because if you think about
definitely.
it, like he drops his hoodie eventually.
Yeah.
I don't even know when I don't
Oh,
remember.
how long does the hoodie last? I don't know. I feel like a while.
Me
At
too.
least until like season 3, surely.
I'm thinking that too.
Yeah.
Because it was such a like the episode that will not be named. I was like, oh yeah, that's what he did used to wear. So it was just like a little bit of a like I don't know, little observation that like Dean's style pretty much stays the same
Yeah.
throughout the whole time, but Sam's changes quite a bit.
I think it becomes more like Dean's, which is interesting. So they head into the morgue, and they kind of walk past an empty doctor's desk, and they're there claiming to be medical students, which is a new one, from Ohio State. But this guy is having none of it. Like Dean's normal charm, like he's smiling, he's like, being very personable, is not working on this guy. So he just tags Sam in. It's like, this isn't working. The face isn't working. You need to help me out here.
Yeah. So he just pulls out some money.
Yeah.
Because money always works. And I love the line that he says. It's like, I earned that money. And it's like, you won it in poker. But I mean, to him, it probably is earning money. Like, they don't have jobs. Like, of course.
Dude, I earned that money. You won it in a poker game. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. He's earning money for the hunts. Like, yeah, for sure. Maybe he's planning to spend that on cassette tapes or something.
Maybe. Pie. Well,
Pie, yeah.
we haven't seen his obsession with pie yet, though.
No,
actually.
it hasn't come into the a characterization yet. The eating's not so much. At all, actually, so far.
There was a little bit in the first episode, I guess, with like them at the petrol station, and it's got like all the junk food, and Sam's like, "How can you eat this?" kind of thing.
Yeah, but then in the last episode in Phantom Traveller, like Sam's eating like a load of donuts. Sat in the hotel room, so you can't really talk.
That's true. So they start to inspect the body, and this is kind of an interesting point for me, which was like Sam looks really uncomfortable looking at this body, but Dean doesn't. He seems like pretty okay with it. So I'm guessing like I'm trying to think back. We haven't seen them actually inspect a body yet.
Don't think so.
So this is obviously and who knows if when Sam was hunting, whether he ever had to actually do this part, or whether it was John and Dean who would always do this, and like he would just be the researcher.
Because it's likely he was too young to kind of take into work and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like this episode was kind of the beginning of like a little bit of Sam's perspective on things, just because of some of the other stuff that comes up.
I definitely felt this episode, like we had a really Dean-centric episode in Dead in the Water. I feel this was very much a Sam-centric episode. I don't think Dean really does much other than sort of facilitate the story in this episode at all.
I think you're right.
It's very important for Sam.
So that they inspect the body and like they're just sort of asking questions about how they think it happened and like how unusual it is for it to not be like, they're calling it a stroke, but the medical assistant that's there is just like, I've never seen a stroke do something like this.
Yeah, because there's loads of like blood in the skull, like something pop. Yeah. And I think Dean asks, what would cause eyes to explode? Like,
Gross.
Okay, yeah.
So that was what I was saying with, like, Sam doesn't really have too many questions at this point. Like, because I think he is so distracted by the, dead body.
Yeah. Yeah, he's very perfunctory. Like, he's like, oh, was there signs of a struggle? He's kind of playing the sort of investigator part, whereas, Dean's a bit more morbidly interested in it, I guess. Because he's trying to figure out what's done it, So they also asked to see the police report, and they bribed the guy again. Clearly very ethical.
Yes. There's definitely some questionable authoritative figures in this episode.
Yes, definitely. For sure. And then we don't see the police report, but they're like walking out of the morgue, and they're kind of having this conversation, and I think Sam says, like, could this be like a freak medical thing? Like, and Dean's pretty much like, when is it ever?
Yeah.
All the stuff we've seen, when is it ever just that? Which is a good point.
So I'm wondering why he asked if it was just a medical thing. Like, is he like ready to? Obviously, he's being plagued by nightmares. So is he like, all right, can this not be a case, and can we move on, kind of thing?
Yeah, I do feel like Sam's always wanting to move on in these cases. He's like, let's get it done. If it needs doing, let's just get it done. Like, no distractions, and then we can move on, go find John. Very focused.
Yeah.
Whereas Dean kind of meanders through a case a bit more.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So they go and talk to the daughter of the guy whose eyes exploded. That's their plan, to go talk to Donna, and they turn up at the wake for the guy who's just died, which is timing. Even Dean comments that they're underdressed for this.
So I'm wondering if, like, how much of that article did they read? Because they obviously knew that there was going to be a wake because they went there. So why wouldn't you like actually dress for it?
No, I don't think they did know that they would turn up to a wake. They're like, let's go talk to this guy's daughter, turn up, like, oh yeah, let's just go with it.
Maybe, yeah.
That's how I read that, because it's an easy way to just walk in, I guess. Which, I think it makes sense. And it's a good introduction to the other characters that we see in this episode, because they go and find the Donna Shoemaker, and they actually introduce themselves here as Sam and Dean.
Yeah.
And they said that they worked with her dad. And
it's very vague.
It's very vague. And she's with two friends who are quite suspicious of them, I think. I think Donna is as well, but they're all quite sort of suspicious. I guess they're sort of high school age. Yeah,
so I think they're like probably either seniors, more likely seniors, just because that we see one of them driving later on.
Okay.
But you could also be a junior, which is like 7. They could either be 17, 17, 18. So I'm gonna say probably seniors. So the last year of high school.
I don't understand the American school system. It confuses me to no end. I blame shows that cast like 20-odd-year-olds to be like high school students. I'm like, how old are you supposed to be? I don't know. What year are you in?
I mean, like, for me, Donna doesn't really pass as a 18-year-old. Not really. I think it's the haircut.
Okay, fair. Yeah, I don't know. She's yeah,
it's
she
very
looks older than that.
Yeah, it's very soccer mum.
Just casually shading some people there.
Yeah, yeah, it's okay.
So they're talking to Donna about her dad, like asking sort of very vague questions like, oh, what do you think could have caused it? Was there a history of medical issues? And her younger sister Lily's like, no, it's all my fault. I said Bloody Mary in the mirror and now he's dead, which I thought was like a bit wild. But I mean, I guess it's quite fairly recent and she's feeling pretty bad about it.
Yeah, I mean, so again, they went back to being really bad at interrogating people in this episode. It was just like, ooh.
I think at the morgue it was quite good, and then when they're actually talking to their family members, they're vaguing around a subject, you know?
Yeah. And Sam trying to connect with the kid was just, it didn't work in this. It felt really, really forced. And I was just trying to think back to, so she's a younger sibling. So I was wondering if they were trying to do the same thing how they did with in Wendigo, like when Dean really connected with the older sibling.
Yeah.
And like that whole kind of like there was a lot of correlation forming with the two of them, but like it didn't quite work.
I saw it a different way, as like Dean had that connection to the kid in Dead in the Water, and now they thought it was like Sam's turn to have try and be the softer, because he does this a few times in this episode actually, where he's the more sympathetic one. But then I think this is just going back to saying like a very Sam-centric episode. I didn't mind it. I was like, he's trying to get information from this kid who's clearly quite upset. Like showing the softer side, doing his like Sam puppy dog eyes. You know?
Yeah. That's very true.
Yeah. So they go and like look around the house. There's quite a cool shot here of them in the mirrors, like as they go through, kind of similar to it's a similar shot to the dad at the beginning, like how they shot that. And they go to look in the bathroom, which I don't know if it wasn't supposed to be like very clean. Like I thought, were there still traces of like blood on the floor, or does it just look like that? Like,
I think it was. I think they just didn't clean it very well, which I thought was, I mean, yeah. Because it's not a crime scene or anything, so I would imagine they're allowed to like just clean it up. But at the same time, it's kind of traumatic. So
yeah, I mean, I guess it's just the girls there by themselves, right? They must have family members around, because you find out later that that's their only parent. So they were asking if like John had ever found any evidence of this kind of stuff in the journal, and Dean's like, no, not really, because like Bloody Mary is such a like widespread thing, and like you were saying, and they kind of mirror this in the show, that there's all these different there's all this different lore about Bloody Mary, like it changes depending on what region you're in and what version you've heard, so it's kind of very vague and they don't know a lot about it.
All they know is that you have to have a violent death in front of a mirror.
Yes. And it's really interesting here, because they suddenly become very careful about saying Bloody Mary in front of the mirrors. Did you notice that?
But according to the legend, the person who says, you know what, gets it. But here,
Shoemaker gets it instead, yeah.
right.
Never heard anything like that before. Still, the guy did die right in front of the mirror. And the daughter's right. I mean, the way the legend goes, you know who scratches your eyes out.
Yeah. that actually made me laugh out, like chuckle, because the way Dean's obviously messing with him, because he like pushes the mirror towards him. It's one of those medicine cabinet mirrors. So it's before he says the name, he like closes it so his face isn't in the mirror. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, I wonder if it actually. I guess it does matter, but I thought it was like, I quite liked that. It's still messing with each other, like even though it's quite serious. So
it's almost like he's like superstitious.
yeah, I guess you would be really superstitious, right, if you were a hunter.
You would, but you wouldn't be, I guess, because like
Yeah.
you know how to combat it, I guess. I don't know.
It just surprised me sometimes that they're not just like dripping in like charms and hex bags and all this kind of stuff that, you know, yeah.
Well, I guess later on, I guess they start to get a bit more
protected,
savvy.
I guess. Yeah, savvy's a good one. So they get caught by Donna's friend who had seen them in the garden, and she's like, "What are you doing?" Which is fair, like snooping around someone's house. And they start to suggest to her here that like something's going on. They've already kind of been doing it a bit in the garden, but they're like, "Oh, we don't think that it was a normal stroke." They're kind of like, "There's something weird going on," you know, with that kind of saying. Yeah. She asks if they're cops, and they say something like that. They're like, "Oh, we're something like that." Okay. And Sam leaves her his number and is like, you know, "Call me if there's anything weird comes up," which is again very going back to X-Files. Like they do that all the time. They leave their cards like, "If you hear anything weird or anything strange happens, call us at this number." They managed to leave that house without causing too much of a problem, but like Dean's trying to pin down what Bloody Mary is still. He's saying like it could be a witch, could be a ghost. So that's the first time witches are mentioned, I think. And Sam wants to do some more research, and I guess they've gone to a library.
Yes.
And he's like, "No, this is going to be super annoying." And Sam's like, "Nah, it'll be fine. The research will be easy." But then the computers are all out of use. Where's his laptop gone?
Yeah. Well, so they want to look at local records.
Yeah, fair.
And look at like local like newspapers and stuff like that. So when those computers came up, I kind of laughed at it, but then I was like, hang on a second, the computers in libraries probably are still the same.
Yeah,
like,
they are.
Go support your local libraries, people, when you can. Like not now, but when it's safe, go back and go to your library and help them out, because like they're actually like a really valuable resource.
Yeah.
Go get a membership.
Yeah.
You can get like, I got a whole bunch of audiobooks and like stuff, so you know. Yeah, so we see the friend who we don't know her name at this point, right? She didn't actually say who she was.
I think here in this conversation they say it. So her name is Charlie.
Yeah.
And the girl she's talking to on the phone is called Jill.
And so they're having a conversation, and she was telling them about the two guys, and it's very much the classic 80s horror movie setup again. You know, you have the blonde hot girl, and she's like, "Oh, you're being so silly. They were super hot. Like we should have, whatever, like being flirtatious and stuff." And then Charlie tells Jill that it could be Bloody Mary because Lily had said that's what had caused, like, that Lily was convinced it was her fault. And so as a joke, Jill goes into her bathroom and starts saying Bloody Mary, and Charlie's on the phone, like, "Don't do it. Why are you doing this? You're so silly.
Yeah.
Like, stop it."
Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary.
And there's a pause, and then there's another 80s movie, B movie scream. And she starts laughing because it's not.
Yeah,
it's not
so
true.
she hears her down the phone like, "Ah!" And it's like, "Oh, hi, just messing with you." So when she hangs up, it cuts back to Jill in her bedroom like, "Oh, I'm so funny." And then she's sort of like doing her makeup and looking in the mirror, and we kind of see I think it's in her, maybe her like compact mirror or something that's on her dresser, like a weird, like a shape. The song playing here, which is not in the Netflix version, is "Sugar We're Going Down" by Fall Out Boy, which I thought was a really good choice. I didn't realise that song was so old. Anyway, I know, it's 2005. And then she goes into the bathroom and she kind of looks down into the sink. I guess it's like, I know it's maybe spit toothpaste or something, but her reflection stays right there.
Yeah, I loved this sequence. Like, this whole, like, yeah, all of it just made me really happy. Creeped me the hell out, but it was really, like, made me really happy. And so her reflection is not doing what she's doing. And then the reflection starts talking to her and saying, you killed him.
Yeah.
I know you did. And just being like, and the reflection's eyes start to bleed.
Yeah.
And then Jill's eyes start to bleed, which I thought was like a really, really nice touch.
Yeah, super creepy. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Ooh, I always hate that when you're in the bathroom and you're like brushing your teeth and you go to spit in the mirror and you just like think before you look up, like, what if there's something creepy? What if there's something creepy in the mirror? Oh.
I mean, after watching this episode, definitely I'm going to be thinking about that. But like, usually I'm okay.
So we don't see her like die, but it's implied that she did because her eyes are bleeding and stuff.
And like she's holding onto her chest and can't breathe.
Yeah,
kind of
exactly. And then it kind of cuts very suddenly. I think it's like a sudden sort of black cut to Sam dreaming about Jessica again, but it's like in reverse this time, which I thought was kind of cool.
I think that sort of jump cut kind of thing was because it's probably a commercial break at that point.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So it wouldn't have been such a jarring like switch, but yeah. Anyway. And that's the first time I really heard Jessica like on the ceiling saying, "Why, Sam?" Like in the first one, it was kind of a little gargled, I guess. And then this one, I heard it clearly. I was like, "Oh, what was that?"
And so this time they're in a motel room when he wakes up, and Dean's been, I don't know, like researching but kind of watching over Sam, because Sam's like, "Why did you let me fall asleep?" I think Dean said like, "'Cause I'm an awesome brother." But I think Dean's worried about him here. Like, you can see that he's quite worried about his nightmares and the fact that he's probably not sleeping very well. And like asked him what he's been dreaming about. I think Sam says like lollipops and candy canes. All right.
Why'd you let me fall asleep?
Because I'm an awesome brother. So what'd you dream about?
Lollipops and candy canes.
Yeah, sure.
Super helpful.
Yeah, super, super helpful. Again, I was like, at this point, I was like, hey, this is, again, going back to earlier what we were saying, the second death comes at like 15 minutes into the episode.
Oh, okay.
Like this is like super, super fast, as we were saying. And like the research failing, like this is kind of like their like formula, I guess, is forming. Like the first person dies, they go do their research, they go inspect the body, find information. They like formally research what they think the creature is going to be. Then another person dies.
Yeah.
Like, but it's usually way later. Like last episode, I feel like when the pilot died, we were at least 25 to 30 minutes in.
Yeah.
So it's just...
This felt more like a procedural cop show, like something like Criminal Minds or whatever, where you get the first victim, they do a bit of research and kind of draw some conclusions, and then the second victim comes and they can draw other conclusions from that, maybe like rule out some things. But that usually happens fairly quickly. So, this felt very, I don't know, that kind of style of show to me.
Yeah.
Like very,
yeah, you're right about
fairly bang, bang, bang quick.
Yeah.
So they discussed some of the research that Dean's been doing. He said he hasn't really found anything. And one of the things he mentions is that he found a giant mirror who fell on a guy called Dave, which I thought was quite funny. But he's been also looking for like strange deaths, hasn't found anything. So I think this is kind of one of the first times they haven't really found any kind of connection, any kind of thing that's going on, but already sort of two people have died. So they must be kind of getting a bit frustrated at this point.
Yeah. And so they're trying to find someone who died a violent death in front of a mirror who's also named Mary. It has to be someone who's named Mary.
Like really specific.
Yeah. So that's where the name Dave came from, because like there was all these other names. There was 3 other names, but Mary.
Yeah, exactly. So luckily, Charlie then rings them and tells them that Jill is dead and that she had said Bloody Mary to her on the phone before she died. So they kind of go see her straight away, and they say to her that like, oh, well, we think this is something that can't be explained, and that they need her help, like specifically to sort of solve this, which is interesting. I think that they ask for her help.
Yeah. So this is like, again, like things I'm noticing going back. I didn't realize how often they revealed that there were monsters in the world.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting. Like I said, I didn't really remember that happening so often. Like, we're only 5 episodes in, and like I feel like 4 of the 5 they've told the person or told the people who were involved, like before they were confronted with the monster.
Yeah.
That there are monsters.
And like what impact must this have on people's lives? Because we kind of see later, way in the future, say like Jodie, for example, what happens to her life after she finds all this supernatural stuff exists? Like, so are they just leaving a string of people behind them that are now, know all about sort of supernatural things? What happened to them? It would be really interesting to know some of them, I guess.
Yeah.
I think they do explore some of these things like in later episodes about maybe what happened to some of the people that they sort of interacted with. But yeah, I think you're right. They're kind of quite ready to tell people, actually.
Yeah.
So Donna helps them sneak into Jill's house through a window, which I thought was very 90s. It made me think of Sabrina with like Harvey going through her window. I don't know why it made me think of that, but that's what it made me think of. And they have their monster hunting equipment, which is different stuff to what we've seen in the last few episodes. So this time their equipment of choice is a night vision camera.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've ever seen the show, like I think it's called Ghost Hunters.
Yeah, I've definitely seen Ghost
something.
Hunters.
Yeah, like
I think that's what it's called. Yeah.
Is one of those silly shows. Like this definitely had that kind of vibe to it. I thought it was kind of funny. And then Sam's messing with the camera and asks Dean like to show him where the night vision setting is.
Yeah.
And then he points it at Dean and says a Paris Hilton reference, and I was just like,
yeah.
Do I look like Paris Hilton?
Who going back watching it, like say you'd never watched it before,
Yeah.
and you are 20 years old now,
Yeah.
you would not know what that meant, and I thought it was really funny.
I want to
Like,
ask
that was
someone under 25 if they understood that reference with Dean, like, do I look like Paris Hilton?
If I was thinking who would they reference like now, and maybe it would be Kim Kardashian, but like
Yeah.
even that's kind of old now, and there hasn't really been, I mean, nobody uses night vision cameras anymore because like phones,
Yeah.
cameras in the dark are pretty good. And I think in general that like whole celebrity sex tape thing is like OnlyFans.
Yeah, and people don't make a big deal out of it anymore, I think if people's like tapes get released, they're like, well, this is a massive invasion of their privacy, rather than like it being a big scandal.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it could be like they said that's obviously a reference to Paris Hilton, but there were other suggestions on the internet that was like, oh, it could also be called a meta reference because Jared was in House of Wax with Paris Hilton, which came out just before Supernatural started. I've watched that movie. It's a really scary movie.
It is. I haven't seen it.
It's horrible. But
I know the premise, but I've never actually seen it.
Yeah, watch it if you want to watch a scary movie. Like,
we'll go back and watch it now and be like terrible.
Yeah. And he looks like Sam Winchester in that movie, and he's like, oh, yeah, this is.
That's funny.
So they check out all the mirrors, with their camera, wondering how she's choosing her victims, because it, like, the first one, the daughter had said, like, Bloody Mary in the mirror, but then the dad had died, which is a bit weird. The second one, like, Jill had said it into the mirror, and then she had died, so that was different again. And then Sam finds some, like, what looks like goo. I just put finds goo with camera.
I was like, could it be ectoplasm?
Yeah, that's what I thought as well. I thought it was going to be ectoplasm. But I couldn't remember how this went.
More than likely, though, it was probably blood.
Yeah, that's right, actually. They don't actually explain what it is, but they go to get a black light. That would show up under a black light, I think. I don't know if you need to spray it with something to get it to show up under a black light. I can't. But they find something, and it says a name, Gary Bryman. Sam immediately then does some, like, research on. So I think they sort of leave the room and go do this research, and they find out that Gary Bryman is an 8-year-old who was killed in a hit and run, and they never found out who did it, but they know the make of the car and everything. Charlie identifies that as Jill's car, so it's she did this hit and run. It matches with what the ghost was saying to her, that she did something, that she killed him. So yeah, so then they go back to the shoemaker's house, and they are looking for another name to see if this is the link that they've been looking for. And they find another name in the bathroom, Linda Shoemaker. So they ask Donna about Linda, who is her mum, and find out that she overdosed. And it's sort of implied that her dad killed her mum, or something happened. Horrible. I mean, maybe not, because what we find out later about this kind of secrets that they're, it could have been just on the periphery of that. It's very dark though, yeah. These like secrets that people are keeping, and then they're, getting killed for them. So from all of this, Charlie decides that she definitely wants to help them, like, stop this thing.
That's right. They end up back in their motel. And Dean has decided to just do, like, a whole search of the FBI and all these other databases, just to find any bizarre deaths. And they with Mary in front of a mirror, and they actually find a Mary who's actually in another town in Fort Wayne. Was it Texas? I think it was Texas or Tennessee.
Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Indiana. Well, I was wrong.
Sorry.
No, you're good. There's so many forts and Fort something.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So they're like, all right, let's go down to Fort Wayne, see what's going on. And
they're kind of discussing here as well, like, the secrets they're kind of talking about, well, maybe it's the secrets that are linking these victims together, and Mary's kind of punishing people who have they're saying secrets that maybe led someone to die. So I guess it had like a secret link to death in some way. I think this is interesting because, like, it comes up a little bit later, but, like, they're already starting to make that connection. So yeah, they go to Fort Wayne, and they talk to an unnamed policeman. About Mary, who they found on this database, I guess. Yeah, and so they claim to be reporters, and this is the first time that their, like, cover actually works, because they've done so much research already that, like, it's because the police officer asks, what do you know? Like, because they ask, what can you tell us about this case? And it's like, well, didn't you say you're reporters? And Sam basically lists off everything that they know so far, and he's like, oh, okay, all right. And so this is where I was saying this is another, like, a person in authority who's not the best, because he says he still has the case file when he's not supposed to. Yeah. And he's just like, he just shows these reporters, and I'm pretty sure all of that is illegal. I guess, I think so. I mean, this happens so much in TV, like, I don't even know if it's, like, properly illegal. Like, do you know what I mean? Because how would, like, some of these reporters ever find out these stories if there weren't random people who kept hold of case files and things. Like, oh my goodness.
Like this whole like conversation that they have about like how like this whole sequence to me felt very like true crime rather than
definitely.
supernatural.
Yes.
I was just like, this is weird. Like it was just
it was very like exposition, like, oh, this is why. So we found out that Mary was murdered, and someone cut her eyes, which links to the eyes. Why did, they ask him, why did he think that it happened, like what happened, who killed her, because it was unsolved. And he says like, well, she was trying to spell out a name, but
in the mirror,
in the mirror, but it got stopped. And he thinks it was this surgeon that she had been having an affair with. It's called Trevor.
Is where and the reason why she was killed is because she was going to reveal to his wife that she was his mistress. It's kind of interesting that like they in the beginning they're not that interested in like human monsters, so like they don't really care that this woman was murdered. Like they're not interested in actually finding, because they, using their skills, they could probably find out who actually killed her.
Solve that. I mean, it does say, I think, because I think they do ask what happened to Trevor, and I think the cop says that like, oh, he's dead.
Oh right, yeah, that's true.
So I wonder if maybe like Bloody Mary got to him. Maybe that's implied, but it doesn't actually say that.
Yeah.
But they do find out that Mary was cremated, not buried, so they can't go get rid of her ghost that way. I mean, they never say that she's a ghost, but I think it's pretty much obvious. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a little bit later, or have they already had the conversation where they're saying that spirits can be trapped in mirrors?
Yeah, so they have this straight after, because Dean's asking like, well, where's the mirror then? This mirror that was in this crime scene. And it's when they're driving back with that they're kind of saying, oh, some people believe that spirits can get trapped in mirrors, like that it shows a reflection of your soul, that's why it's unlucky to break mirrors, all this kind of stuff.
But before they actually get to that conversation, the Donna confronts Charlie in the bathroom, in their school bathroom, and it's like, why are you helping these people? They were super suspicious.
Yeah.
And why are you going all crazy? Like, you're acting like my little sister. Look, I'll prove it to you. There's nothing you have to worry about. And so Donna says Bloody Mary 3 times in the mirror.
Yeah, just to be
this is where it's going
vindictive. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is where I was going back to like in the beginning, saying that like, can you imagine if they have to say it 7 times? Yeah. This is like the 3rd time they've had to say Bloody Mary, and like it would have been too much. So I'm glad they went with 3.
I was kind of hoping in this episode, because she says it like quite vindictively, but like at the beginning of the conversation they have, she just says it and they're in front of a mirror, and I was like, oh, maybe she's going to accidentally say it 3 times while they're in this bathroom without kind of meaning to, and I thought that would have been kind of cool. But as soon as she says it, like Charlie looks really worried. I think she's also made the connection between like secrets and Bloody Mary, which is maybe why she looks so concerned.
Yeah, because before they Dean found this Mary in Fort Wayne, he tells Charlie not to say it because we don't want any more deaths, and her, like, she has a very fast response, like, oh no, I would never do it. So I think that tipped me off as well, that like she didn't want to do it.
That was really good. The girl who played Charlie in this episode was really good, I thought, actually.
Yeah, no, she was. Yeah, she was really good.
So they're in chemistry class, like in a science lab, and Charlie's like worried. She's constantly checking her mirror. She has like a little compact. She's kind of like looking in it. And then she does start to see Bloody Mary, so she freaks out. Like, she sees it in the mirror of the classroom, like a big window in the classroom, and smashes it with a stool. Like, the best bit is when the teacher tries to stop her, and she sees Bloody Mary like reflected in his glasses. Oh, that was super creepy.
That was good. So now it goes back to them in the car, and they're driving. Because Charlie's called Sam to say that Bloody Mary's after her. And on their way back to Toledo, they find out that the mirror has been sold to an antique shop in Toledo. So that's, and they're making the connection that she is in the mirror, and they have to destroy the mirror somehow.
It makes me wonder what the radius is. Like, if you have the mirror in your town, at what radius does can Bloody Mary get to you? Like,
well, so I feel like it's implied that they go to a lot of small towns. Like, there hasn't been like Los Angeles, California, like or
exactly,
Manhattan or anything like that. So they're going to all these small places, so that they're big-ish towns, but they're not like. I've been to a few of these places, and like you can get to one end to the other like within like a 2-minute drive. Like, it's really not. They're not really 2 minutes.
I just wondered, like, maybe they could have plotted it on a map. You could have seen, like, oh right, yeah, the antique shop's in the middle. I guess there hadn't been enough death to really plot them like that. But Dean's saying that he wants to smash the mirror, and Sam's like, yeah, that could work. Like, thinking face.
Yeah.
He's obviously got another plan brewing, but doesn't want to say it yet.
So they don't show how they get a hold of Charlie, but Charlie's like curled up on the bed in their motel room, and this is another like puppy dog eyed Sam moment. Like, something about it really stood out to me, that I even wrote, like, Sam is so wide eyed at this point. Like, he really made his eyes look big, and
like, he's sincere. Like, he's looking like sincere. Like, yeah, I really, I don't know. There's a thing that people do where they look at people's faces and they track across their faces. Do you know what I mean? When you see their eyes track across their... Yeah, he was doing that like that a lot. I don't know. But, yeah, he's being very sincere. Like, oh, you know, kind of asked... I think he's saying, like, oh, you know, it's not going to get you. We're going to protect you. We're going to cover all the mirrors. Don't look at any reflective surfaces. And Charlie's worried because he's like, well, I can't live my whole life like this.
Yeah.
It was when I next pick up a shiny glass, or look at a spoon, like, you know, I could die. And then Dean brings up and asks her what her secret is, which again, it's like really, these secrets in this episode are really dark. Like, it's So like,
so her secret is that she was in a relationship with somebody or a boyfriend, and they're very, I guess it kind of implied that they're on and off again kind of situation.
Maybe a bit toxic, like
very.
She was like scared of him.
And one night she said she decided that she was going to leave him, and he says, if you leave me, I will kill myself. So anybody who's in this situation, definitely get out of that situation and know that it's not your fault for whatever happens afterwards, because that's huge emotional manipulation, and that's very, like we were saying, very, very toxic. And so just, you know, take care of yourself. There's no need for you to have to take on someone else's emotional burden in that way. Just know that if anything does happen, it's not your fault.
Yeah.
But you need to leave that relationship.
Really good point. Like, that someone should never say that to you. That's not healthy in any way at all. And they do like reiterate that in this episode, which I really appreciated. They say multiple times, like, well, that definitely wasn't her fault.
Yeah. I was a little disappointed. Like, they have this like really intense conversation, and then it goes to them like being outside somewhere, and I was like, wait, why didn't they reassure her? Like, what? Like, Dean then does say it, like, it's not her fault. Yeah. But they don't say it to her at that moment, and I was just like, oh, it's kind of, like, I was a little bit disappointed. Yeah, but they do say it later on. Yeah. Yeah. So
I think, so Dean says it's not her fault. I think Sam says, well, spirits don't see shades of grey, which is okay. I wouldn't say it's a shade of grey, actually, but okay. And then Sam comes up with his plan. So he says, like, it's not enough to smash the mirrors. Like, we need to summon her into her mirror. and that Sam's going to do it. He's going to be the bait.
Yeah,
And
because he has a secret.
He has a secret. Right. This interaction it annoyed me, but not because it was bad. So basically, when he's saying like, "Oh, I'm going to do it," Dean pulls off the road like he's had enough of this angst, you know. And Sam's saying, "Well, this is about, you know, Jessica." Dean's saying that he's got to stop blaming himself. Like, it's, you know, mirroring almost, I guess, the conversation they've just had with Charlie, but in a weird kind of way. About like, blame and thinking it's your fault. And he also says like it's not a secret. Like, I know about it. Like, Jessica died. I know about it. You know. And Sam says, "Well, there's stuff you don't know."
And besides, all of this isn't a secret. I mean, I know all about it. It's not going to work with Mary anyway.
No, you don't.
I know what?
You don't know all about it. I haven't told you everything.
What are you talking about?
Well, it wouldn't really be a secret if I told you, would it?
And I just put, this is where the secrets start. Like, this is where it starts, right?
Yeah. So, you know, this is so, like, this scene
It's so frustrating.
basically is the entire season series.
It's the entire show. 15 years of this bullshit. Just talk to each other. Why are you keeping secrets?
And
Seriously.
I mean, so, and he tops it off like by saying that I would die for you, and I was just like, oh God, oh no, like it was, it literally is like every time it's someone has a secret, they are willing to put themselves in danger.
Yeah.
They get injured, and then they have to do something. It's like, ugh.
This is where it starts.
Even in the very last like 3 episodes of season 15, it was this exact scenario.
Yes. Oh my God, it's so frustrating. But where's the development of like getting over keeping secrets to each other? Because surely you must learn at some point that, oh, actually, being open and honest with each other and not being so self-sacrificing, because it's all the self-sacrificial nonsense that constantly gets them into these situations and starts the domino. Like, I always think of Supernatural as like, this is, you know, it's a domino effect. The stupid stuff they keep doing, most of the other stuff wouldn't have happened if they didn't do all this stupid stuff. Like, okay, like I understand that in a story you can't have the characters telling each other everything they're thinking and feeling all the time, but you would not keep such important details about your life from people that you love. Like, okay. I just put, this happens over and over and over again. Like, that's all I've written in my notes.
Because it's true.
It's so frustrating. You just want to shake him, just want to take him by the shoulders, just want to shake him and be like, just tell him what's going on. Maybe it all could have got sorted out, or we would never have had this. This podcast wouldn't need to exist because anyway,
we wouldn't be stuck in purgatory.
Exactly. This is the purgatory. The constant secrets. Anyway, ran over, I guess, for now. It will come back up.
Most definitely. So that's funny.
Yeah.
So they end up driving to the antique store.
Yeah.
Or antique shop.
It's
and
full
there's
of
so
mirrors.
many mirrors. Yeah. Which is not actually unusual. It's actually pretty common. Like,
Yeah, that's
that they
true.
are everywhere.
Where I live, we have this most amazing antique shop. It's like 3 stories. It's so cool. And you're right, it's just full of mirrors. I love it. I love an antique shop.
Yeah.
Old
So,
lady.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. So they have a picture from the crime scene. Or I guess the police officer gave them a copy of the mirror from the crime scene, and so they start looking through all of the mirrors, like with a rinky-dink flashlight.
Yeah, I like
or
that.
torch. I've been hitting this country for too long. I'm sorry to say
It's fine.
American words.
We'll just switch in and out like petrol and gas constantly. It's fine.
Well, I'm doing it for our American listeners, to be, so they understand us.
What are you trying to say? No, joke.
Just kidding. And so they start looking around, and then there's this really, really bright light. And so Dean tells Sam to go look so he can go investigate.
Oh, yeah. I put here so that you see the burglar alarm is active, like it's flashing. And then they do find the mirror and they say the thing before the security turns up. And I said, like, Sam says Bloody Mary with Dean standing right there. So, like, what was the point? Like, oh, I'm going to do this. I mean, maybe it doesn't matter because the dad at the beginning, like, was he stood in front of a mirror? I don't know. But...
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so Sam says, like, Bloody Mary. And then, yeah, there's lights in the window and Dean goes to check it out.
Yeah. And so I wrote here, when you can't charm him, punch him in the face.
That is so true.
That's basically what he did. He was trying to say that he was the owner's son and that was just a mistake.
But yeah, so then he punches the police. Oh, they're not the police, are they? They're security. They're not actually police.
I think they are police because they have a squad car.
Oh, I thought it said security across the bonnet of their car because I thought they were police when they rocked up as well because like I think they were pointing guns at him like, oh, okay, well, fine.
Maybe. I think you're probably right because I feel like if it was police there would be more like hullabaloo.
Be like, woo!
Yeah.
That's a noise I always make.
Yeah, I mean it is.
So yeah, he takes them down pretty easily as well, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe because it's such a surprise. And while this is going on, I think he says like, I don't have time for this because while it's going on, Sam's like having a confrontation with his own reflection.
Mm-hmm. And so we find out what Sam's secret is during the sequence as well, which is again is super dark. Like we find out that Sam had premonitions of Jessica burning on the ceiling, basically, and saying, "Why did you leave her alone? You could have saved her," basically.
You never told her the truth, who you really were. But it's more than that, isn't it? Those nightmares you've been having of Jessica dying, screaming, burning, you had them for days before she died. Didn't you?
It's almost like it's a guilt trip rather than a secret.
Yeah, I think so because it is saying like, oh, well, you should have told her who you were, all this kind of stuff. I think it was also implying that when he left with Dean, like he should have stayed as well, like, what happened in the pilot. But
because just going back to the dad, the Mr. Shoemaker.
Yeah.
I want to call him Schumacher. Just like a racer.
Yeah.
The Shoemaker, Mr. Shoemaker, like he probably felt guilt over his wife killing herself, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like maybe he didn't actually kill her. Maybe it was more guilt surrounding her death.
Right, and then with Charlie being feeling guilty over her boyfriend's death.
Yeah, the only one who actually did something was Jill. Yeah, maybe.
So
it doesn't actually. I guess it was her car, so yeah, she probably did do that.
I mean, but it doesn't mean that she was driving.
That's true, yeah. So, yeah, again, it might be a guilt thing. So, as Sam's, like, bleeding from the eyes and all this stuff's happening, Dean smashes the mirror as he comes back in. Which is great. And he says to him, like, Sammy. And Sam's like, it's Sam.
Yeah.
Sammy. It's Sam. God, you okay? Yeah.
So the mirror is smashed, but then, I hate it. You see Bloody Mary, like, crawl out. So I don't know, Annabelle, if you've ever seen the original Japanese Ring trilogy.
I haven't. I've seen the sequence of the American-made Ring when she comes out of the TV. I've seen, like, just the sequence. I've never actually watched any of those movies.
Yeah. So There's a movie called like The Ring Zero, which I think is like a prequel to the Ring, and it is the Japanese version. And in this one, like the iteration of her is like grown up, and there's this bit in this movie where the girl, the creepy ring girl, is moving towards this woman who's like really scared. And the movements are just horrible and jerky. Like, you know, like they cut out a frame from every movement. I can still see it as I'm saying it now. It creeps me out. Like I probably watched that movie maybe a decade ago, and it sticks with you. If you like, super scary. This wasn't as extreme as that when she's coming out of the mirror, but they definitely did some like made her movements all jerky.
And they made her like contort herself.
Yeah, it must have been inspired by The Ring. I can't see where else they would have got that from.
Yeah, no, that's definitely. I mean, it kind of, it didn't really make sense for like how she would have crawled out of a mirror like that, because the mirror was smashed. So like, they did it for that reason alone. I think, because they could have had her like come out of like the fragments of mirror, but it wouldn't have been like. So,
it would have been as creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, really visual.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't write anything for that because I was like, I don't need to. I can remember that.
Yeah, exactly. So she starts attacking both Sam and Dean. And like, people have made this point before, so I'm totally stealing this. But they said, oh, we know why Sam is bleeding from the eyes. Why is Dean bleeding from the eyes? What's his secret? Unless it's, so I've been thinking about this for a few days now. I know, yeah. And people, they'd be like, well, so apparently people did ask Eric Kripke this, and he said, oh, it will be addressed at a later date, and then it kind of never was. But I don't think that it needs to be. I think it, because of the way we've seen it over guilt and stuff, it could even be related to Jessica, because in the car earlier on, Dean had even said to Sam, well, you could blame me for this. I'm the one who took you away from Jessica. And then when you came back, you know, she died. So I think maybe it's not as big of a mystery as it could be.
I mean, you just got to think about, like, say we go with it's guilt rather than actually causing someone's murder. Can you imagine, like, because they don't save everybody, like, he must feel guilty. Like, we see that in Dead in the Water, like, when he couldn't save the police officer, the Jake, whatever his name was. Yeah. You could see that they felt guilty over that. Even though they didn't like the guy. Yeah. They still wanted to save him. So how many people could he not have saved and he still feels guilty about?
That's it. I think that it has to be something like that. I mean, I know if Kripke alluded to it being a bigger secret, fine. I don't think that it needs to be, though. I think it was... No. It relates to this episode and not being able to save people or being in some way tied to their death in a peripheral way.
And also, I mean, so I didn't really see it that way. I just thought it was, you know, because whenever a monster is attacked, they attack back. Yeah. So it could also have just literally been like she's trying to stop them from killing her. So of course there would be both of them. And I mean, maybe because Sam's already injured, so he couldn't really do anything. But Dean is actually doing pretty well and like being able to like not come up with a plan to fight back. So it may not be as like intense because he might not feel that guilt or have that secret or whatever. So I don't know. I know we look into a lot of things, but this is one thing I didn't really like look into too much until you said it, and then I started to sort of back myself out of it a little bit. But
like I said, because I've seen sort of meta on this and people wondering about it, and it, you know, it was mentioned that this will be revealed, and it never kind of was. But again, like I don't feel like it was this doesn't feel like one of Supernatural's great unanswered questions, of which there are many.
Right.
So Dean holds up a mirror, like he just grabs one from the side and holds it up in front of Bloody Mary. Like, quick thinking. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of, I don't know, attacks herself. Like,
Yeah.
Her reflection says, you killed all of those people. And then they both start bleeding from the eyes. And she sort of,
she turns into goo.
Yeah, she
Like, it's
gooped
like a
out.
weird, I don't know, that as in terms of like deaths goes for monsters, that was kind of a bit of a fizzle.
It's been, a bit anticlimactic. I don't think they've decided yet how ghosts are going to disappear, because we saw the woman in white like kind of get dragged down into hell. They didn't deal with the ghost in Dead in the Water, really. It just sort of disappeared maybe, and then this one's kind of gooed out. So we haven't seen the sort of burn that like we see later on. And then Dean smashes that mirror that he was holding. Yeah. And I think he says, hey Sam, this is like 600 years of bad luck.
Hey, Sam.
Yeah.
This has got to be like, what, 600 years bad luck?
Nope, it's just 15.
That's the best thing you've ever said. Oh man. Oh.
I mean, it's true.
Yeah, it's very true. So, and it cuts to them like Charlie saying, "Is this really over?" And Dean's like, "Yeah, it's over." Like they feel pretty confident. I think this time they solved this one. And then Sam says like a nice thing. He tells Charlie to like forgive herself.
Yeah, which is where like, this is what they should have said. For me personally, this is where they should have said it like to her when she was like in the most distress.
Yeah.
Rather than like now.
I can see why they didn't storytelling wise though, because I wrote here like Sam's also talking to himself, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think he had to go through that experience with like hearing his guilt back in the mirror for him saying, well, you need to forgive yourself. And he's kind of talking to himself and saying, yeah, you know, I think he says sometimes bad things just happen.
Your boyfriend's death. You really should try to forgive yourself. No matter what you did, you probably couldn't have stopped it. Sometimes bad things just happen.
Which is true. Like, yeah,
Yes.
Sometimes bad things do just happen.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. You know, and when Charlie goes, Dean's like, that was some good advice you gave there. Like, take it yourself.
Hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
Yeah. And then I put they drove off, and I thought this was the end of the episode, but the next bit was quite iconic. I forgot this was this episode. Because Dean's asking, like, can you tell me the secret? And Sam's like, oh yeah, here's where he says, look, you're my brother and I die for you, but there are some things I need to keep to myself. Why?
Yeah.
Why? Like, if you were having dreams about, like, Jessica dying a few days before, I mean, I don't think that Dean would think it was that weird, because they already know that her death was supernatural, right? It's the name of the show. Like...
And how many people have you seen on the ceiling burned to death?
Exactly. They already know it was caused by something. So why would you not give any, like, you know, this is an extra clue that could be used to help find who did it.
And also, like, there's people have deja vu dreams all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a very intense deja vu dream, but like, I feel like if he had told him at this point, Sam probably would have written it off as deja vu.
Yeah. Like, I think, yeah, they would have been like, oh, well, maybe it was caused by the thing that killed her. You know, there's other explanations, but anyway, we already ranted about that. And then Sam, as they're driving along, there's this like slow-mo shot of Sam seeing Jessica out of the window in a long white dress, which is not what she actually died in. And then as they sort of turn past the pole that she stood near, she disappears like a ghost.
Yes, and it has like a ghosty like sound that happens.
Yeah.
Like a
So,
whoosh.
do you think that he saw her ghost, or do you think that it was just him manifesting that guilt again and maybe like letting it go a bit?
You know, I think looking back on it, probably like it was his guilt. But in terms of like watching it the first time, I took it as a ghost.
Yeah. I think
Just because
both.
I mean, maybe it is a ghost. Just because they've had to deal with a ghost in this particular instance, and like just the whole guilt aspect of it. Because I don't know.
Like, it's weird because he's kind of seeing her in basically what Mary died in, although he wouldn't remember that, I don't think. So it's a weird, because I don't know, is she a ghost? I think it just ties into the episode, right, about guilt and like you know, secrets and letting things go a bit. Yeah. It's a nice sequence though. The music, in my version at least, is "Laugh, I Nearly Died" by the Rolling Stones, which is a really not like, it's very atmospheric. I listened to the song that was on the Netflix version, which is "Bones to Dust" by Fred Haring, I think that's how you say it. And it's okay. It's not as atmospheric, I don't think, as a Rolling Stones song, but you know, it is what it is.
They need to release their 15 season box set already. I need this in my life. I need to hear the original music, because like it ties so much into it, because when the songs play in Netflix, like I don't pay attention to them. They're just like, I don't feel like they really add to what's happening. And I mean, they're trying to do as close as they can, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, oh, I want to know.
Like, they clearly have put thought into them, I think, because I guess they're kind of similar themes, some of these songs, but it's not the same. Like, they were chosen for a reason in the original, you know, cuts of these episodes, and it does seem like a shame. I really hope that if they do the, like, 15 season box set, that they do have the original music in. I can't see why they wouldn't.
Right. It should be fine. Like,
yeah,
because it's leasing to Netflix, which is the issue, I guess.
Yeah.
We shall see.
Okay, so yeah, Bloody Mary. It wasn't as scary as I remember, but it was still scary.
it had its moments for sure.
Definitely. I mean, it just, you know, I'm scared of the Japanese horror movies stuff, so it's good. Very Sam-centric episode. Like, it really focused on his story, like how he was dealing with Jessica's stuff, and also the secrets that he's keeping. Sorry.
So I feel like at the end of this episode, like, I have, like, Sam's appeal is starting to come up again. He's less a whiny little baby
yeah.
in this, and more, you know.
It felt more of an equal partnership in the investigation, and also the roles they took during the hunt, I think.
Yeah, like Sam is starting to accept that this is his life now, rather than like this is a part-time thing. Though I feel like this changes a little bit in the next episode, because they do go back to I think they go back to California because the next episode is Skin.
Yes.
Sorry?
Oh, I remember this episode, and I remember it being gross.
Yeah, it's
I think
gross.
the physical effects in this are gross, and I'm kind of looking forward to watching them.
And there's also the first time that we see like one of the characters not act like themselves, but be themselves or look like themselves.
I'm looking forward to this. Oh my gosh, I'm looking forward to it so much. Okay, yeah, this definitely. I want to watch this one again. Okay.
So yeah, it should be. This one's a good one, but I'm hoping it's not like a bit of a step backwards for Sam, in that like he remembers that he wants to really be at college, and or this, that, and the other.
That's true. Again, I think we said this a few times. I think the characterization's not always 100% there in these first few episodes. I think it goes back and forth a bit, but it's getting there. Like, yeah, I definitely felt for Sam in this episode, and like definitely more sympathetic than maybe he's been in like the last episode, for example.
Yeah, he's like I said, he's dropped the whining.
Dropped the whining.
He just tried to help these people this time and not try to think about like his problems, I guess.
Yeah, because there's that very focused on like finding John and Jessica. But yeah, he actually really worked this case really well. Oh yeah, I you're right. I want to see if it takes a step back in the next episode and like how their interactions have changed based on what happened here, because this is a really important story episode really as well. Like just like Phantom Traveler, this pushes along the main plot quite a lot, so yeah, looking forward to it. Right, so thanks guys. I think definitely in this episode you can see that we're still stuck in purgatory.
Yes.
But
yeah, I think so.
I hope that in some way we're helping you escape, and talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye.